It's fall, baby. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we are making pumpkin spice cinnamon rolls with maple and cardamom icing, and they're good. They're good. It came out good. I already made them. I'm filming this after this time. I've always been a big fan of pumpkin pie, but past that, pumpkin spice really, it's overdone. It's overdone. It's really overdone. You have pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving, you have one other pumpkin spice thing through the entire year, and you're good. That's good. That's okay. That's all right. That's a perfectly fine use of seasonal flavors. But that said, if you're a fan of pumpkin spice, you're gonna enjoy these. The icing, especially, it's tasty. It's good stuff. I could eat it with a spoon, it's sitting in the fridge. I might do that. I won't do that, but I might do that. If you also can't stand just how overdone pumpkin spice is, I don't know, hit the subscribe button, come back next week. I think we're doing pizza. Pumpkin spice. To start my dough, to a large bowl, I added 60 grams of warm water, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, 60 grams of warm milk, and 2 1/4 teaspoons or 1 packet of dry active yeast. Then, when that was all nice and foamy and ready to go, I added 175 grams of all-purpose flour, 3 more tablespoons of brown sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of room temperature butter, and 200 grams of pumpkin puree. You can use canned pumpkin puree if you want, but I went ahead and made my own just by cutting open a pumpkin, scooping out all the seeds, then just placing it on a parchment-lined baking tray, greasing it up, poking a couple holes in the skin, and tossing it in a 350-degree oven for about an hour. When it came out, it was way too hot to handle, so I used a J-cloth to hold it, and scooped it off the skin, and then just mashed it up with a whisk. Then I mixed all of that stuff together until it was a nice thick batter, similar to when we did the pretzel video. This just helps get everything incorporated before we start kneading, and makes things easier to hand knead. Then I added another 175 grams of all-purpose flour, and I dumped that out onto my table and kneaded the living out of it. If you've got a stand mixer and your kids are not asleep, just put this in a stand mixer for about 5 minutes until it's a nice smooth dough, and don't bother making a giant mess all over your table. If you do have to hand mix this, it's an absolute disaster at first, but if you just keep working through it, it does eventually come together. You can see when it's starting to develop enough gluten that you can almost kind of see through it if you stretch it out. It's called a window pane test, and it shows that it's almost ready to let it rest. When you got a nice, smooth, cohesive dough, it's nice and elastic, plop that in a bowl and let it rise for about an hour until doubled in size. Then dust it with just a little bit of flour, press some of that air out, and we're just going to dump it out onto a generously floured table. And we're just going to roll that out until it's about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch thick. Then I brush that with a 1/4 cup of margarine. I like using margarine for this because it's spreadable straight out of the fridge, and I always forget to pull out butter. It doesn't really affect the flavor that much. It's just going to kind of separate the layers of the cinnamon roll and help hold some of the sugar and spices. It's not an ideal choice, but it definitely works. Then I sprinkled a 1/4 cup of brown sugar on that before realizing that that was nowhere near enough. So let's call that half a cup. Half a cup of brown sugar on there. Then I dusted that generously with my pumpkin pie spice mixture. Alright, now here is seriously one of the reasons I hate pumpkin spice. Everybody does it differently, right? Everybody has their own pumpkin spice, and everyone else is wrong. That's the issue, that everyone else is wrong. If you got a recipe, you love it, skip this, okay? Use your thing that you love and you consider pumpkin spice. Pumpkin spice. To make my pumpkin spice mixture, I mix together in a small bowl 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ground ginger, 1 teaspoon of allspice, half a teaspoon of freshly ground cloves. They don't have to be freshly ground, but the flavor is really a lot better. I bash these up in my mortar and pestle, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Fresh is definitely best for this. Use a microplane. I ended up not using all of this, but honestly, I probably could have and it would have been just fine. Then, gently starting with the edge furthest from me, carefully roll this up onto itself, trying not to create any large air bubbles or gaps in between the dough as I roll it over. Then I chopped off both ends, and kind of using my stretched out hands as a guide, I tried to find the center of this dough. That's kind of what I'm doing here. You can see I'm trying to find the center in between my two thumbs. That's the middle. And then I did the same to find the center of that and cut each of those into a rough 3. That gives you pretty even 12 pieces. But hey, do it however you want. Then I loaded those into a pan-sprayed pan, threw a lid on it, and set them in the oven with a light on, just to proof for about 45 minutes. Look at these bad boys. So puffy they look like they're already baked. Alright, let's toss these in the oven. 375 for 25 minutes. And oh buddy, look at that. Smells pumpkin spicy. Looks pumpkin spicy. Alright, let's top these with a little icing. It's my absolute favorite part. So good. 4 ounces of room temperature cream cheese. A quarter cup of 2% milk. 60 grams of maple syrup. And I had some cardamom pods. I just kind of bashed them up and took the shells out and then ground up the insides. I ended up using about a quarter of a teaspoon for this. And then I sweetened it up with 2 tablespoons of icing sugar. Give that a little taste, see how we're doing. Spot on. I only put icing on about half of them. I wasn't sure if the kids were going to like it, but they actually ended up liking it a lot. I actually only baked this for about 20 minutes, but it definitely could have used an extra 5 minutes just to dry out a little bit more and develop a little more browning. But these were absolutely delicious. The combination of the pumpkin spice, the maple and the cardamom icing really worked together well. And if I had to pick one thing to do as a pumpkin spice thing this year, I'm definitely glad it was this. Look, that is it for this one. I'm gonna go eat that icing with a spoon, like I said. That was honestly, whew. Anywho, if you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it, please go hit the like button, consider subscribing, and of course, if you tried making this yourself, don't forget to tag me on Instagram with some pictures so I can share them with all of my friends. Thank you very much for watching, you guys, and I will see you in the next one.